In terms of architecture of an AI system, I think business leaders should not really care, except for the following. Right? It's a data science. You would hire a good data scientist or data architect who would tell you to do that. Right? As a business leader, you should not be worried about it, except for 2 or 3 things. One is, how does this architecture scale? So let's say you have a problem, and this problem has been solved at a small level by some promising algorithm or some technique. And now you're trying to solve it at, let's say, a huge level, right? So for, let's say, earlier you were doing only, hard pressed to find an example. Oh yeah, this one. So let's say you have a system that can analyze your wrist for signs of repetitive strain injury. Doesn't matter, right? Basically analyze pictures of your wrist and say something, classify it one way or the other. And there's an algorithm that solves it very well, and now you want to use it for the whole body, right? And in theory, it's just a different scale. But sometimes what happens is that in the data architecture, the hardware dependency is super linear, which means that if you go from 1 to 10, the hardware required could go from 1 to 100 or 1,000, right? And which means that a lot of solutions can be very viable and very applicable in small scale, but not at an enterprise or a large scale system, right? So as a business leader, what you need to think through is, can this application scale in terms of costs and hardware or whatever architecture your data science team is proposing? Second, and this is very important, this is what I call the graveyard of a lot of AI systems, right? So think about AI training process. In most cases, you have a black box, right? And you just provide it with all the right information, what training data and input modeling and all that, and some output comes out, right? And when you start, you're assuming, okay, the business wants like 90% accuracy or whatever that number is. Right? You have set a target. You run it for first few times, and your data science team kind of iterates on it, and everything happens, and suddenly the accuracy plateaus out at 85%, right? Now, of course, it's still a good system and the thing, but many times business leaders are not aware of how to take that 85 to 90 or 95, whatever it's at that, right? Because it's a black box, and your data science team will keep telling you, oh, let's find better data and go through the whole training process again. Oh, let's do it again. And that's the right thing to do at some level. But even before you start, you need to ask that question about the data architecture or the system architecture, that if we fall short of our target or our acceptable limit, whatever that is, how do we kind of crawl back up? So, and hopefully your data science team has a good answer, right? And the only third thing I would say is that as a business leader, you need to make sure that your data science team can translate whatever data metrics they are working with back to the business metrics. Many times I'm asked these questions on various forums, or I teach some children and all that how do you tell a data story, right? And if you have this amazing data and amazing analysis, how do you tell a story behind it? And I tell them, you're too late. You should have started from the story, found the data and the systems to prove, disprove, or kind of modify that story. And that's, again, a business leader's job. So to kind of rephrase, when it comes to architecture, one is that you need to make sure that whatever system or algorithm is being used can scale. If it has worked in a small scale, doesn't mean it will scale that well. Maybe the hardware cost is prohibitive or something else kind of breaks. So you have to be careful of that. Number two, you need to understand that the AI system may not deliver as promised. And if that happens, are there ways to take the accuracy or whatever performance metric you're using beyond the acceptable limits which you set out when you started on this journey? Going back and retraining the whole engine is probably the worst answer to this. I'm sure your data science team can tell you simple things. And number three is really make sure that your data science team understands the business priorities and can translate the business metrics for you to the data metrics they are reporting on day in, day out basis. Right? Start from the story. Do not start from the data. Start from what you're trying to achieve as a business. Beyond that, I don't think business leaders should be worried about the algorithms and architecture, et cetera. You have a data science team for a reason.